Hi there, how's everybody doing? This is Sergio Sais with the Real Estate Hedgehog podcast. This is number 28. I'm so glad that you guys are able to join us. As usual, I'm here with my partner, Sam Yin. Sam, how are you doing, buddy?
Really good. Hello, everybody. I'm just trying to stay out of the heat because it's been pretty hot in Southern California.
It's been blistering. I got home today at about 5 o'clock, and I live in the San Fernando Valley. It's kind of like in the other valley. You don't live here, you live in the other valley. And it was 100 degrees at 5 o'clock. So yeah, it's kind of hot. How hot was it in your part of the world?
Oh, I don't know. But if I had to say by the feel of my skin, it was probably about 90 degrees by 10 in the morning.
90 by 10 in the morning.
Yeah, it was pretty warm.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? I was in Vegas just a couple of days ago at my sister's house, and it was about 90 by 10 in the morning as well. But it felt like 110 because it was so humid.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it was
yes.
muggy.
Yeah, we have that dry humidity, so dry heat, I mean.
Yeah.
Dry
Hey,
heat.
so what do you want to talk about today on this podcast?
You know what? I remember last podcast we had, I think Rick Perillo, one of our partners, who joins us in podcasts. He joins us in some other meetings that we have. And he touched on something that I thought would be worth talking about. He was telling us about how he got started in real estate and how he started putting money together. Startup capital is what we call it, right? How he started doing that. And so it got me to thinking, you know what? I was at a wedding this past Saturday. And of course, at a wedding, young couple getting married, a lot of young couples there, their family, their friends, but a lot of young couples. And it's so funny when you have a large group of late 20, early 30-year-olds, you really realize how old you are, because
this is true, man. It's
even
sad,
for
but
you,
it's true.
yeah. I mean, even for you, it's not like you're that far removed, but you are a few years removed from that.
Oh, partner, I remind my wife all the time. She works at a college. I tell her, these kids weren't even born yet when you started working at this college.
Exactly. So anyway, it's a wonderful couple that friends of ours that got married. And in talking to some of the young folks there, hey, Serge, what you did? How you been? What's going on? What are you doing? Oh, you know what? Work, real estate. Oh, really? And I talked a little bit about what you and I are doing. And one of the things that they kept coming up was, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I don't have any money. I don't have any money, and it's not like I knew that these guys had jobs, but that was a theme that kept coming up. They didn't have money. And it got me to thinking, so how do people get started, And one of the things you have to do is you have to put together startup capital. So that's one of the things that's the thing I want to talk about today. And so, but here's the question for you, Sam. Now you started early on because you've been in this game for quite a few years. How did you get started in real estate as far as the capital formation part of it?
I went the traditional route. And to be honest with you, I think that is the best route, because unless you come from money or money is handed to you or you win the lottery, you have no other choice. And I get it. There's podcasts out there and articles out there about people starting with zero and able to invest with zero and get creative. And it is possible. But for the masses, for any business, you need startup capital. So the way I did it was I just grounded out and worked hard. I worked extra hours. I worked side jobs, had a lot of side hustles. I spent less and saved more. And that's what it came down to. Basically, increasing my inflow of money and decreasing my outflow of expenditures. And that's just the gist of it. So for example, I had a job and back when I started, even when I was making $8 an hour, the way I did it was I made a plan. I knew where I wanted to go. I set that goal. And I knew that to get to that goal, I had to cut some costs. Now, I went pretty extreme, but just like you mentioned, Rick Perillo, he made a plan, he had a goal, and he made it happen within a few years. So when I did it, when I made the goal to do it, I knew that I was making very little money. I worked every little extra hour of overtime that was available. And the bosses don't want to pay overtime.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure any way I can, take on any exercise stuff I can, plus working on the side. I budgeted my food to $2 a day. It sounds extreme, but that's just the truth. Every day I went to work, before going into work, I would go to the market across the street. It was a Mediterranean market. I bought a bag of pita bread, which cost 39 cents. It had about 4 slices of bread in it. I bought 1 tomato, 1 bell pepper. I had them slice a 1/4 pound of ham and a 1/4 pound of cheese. And I lived with that for 3 meals a day. That's it. I made it last 3 meals. I ate a couple of pita bread stacked with some ham and cheese. And usually on the 5th or 6th day, it went below my $2 budget. I'd splurge, I'd get like maybe an avocado every month once, or I might get a banana, which cost at that time, 9 cents or 12 cents.
Right.
That's how I did it. I did it for 2 years. And what I also did was I used to pay into the work pool's water fund, which was $1 a month. But what I used to do was before I go home, I'd fill my big giant 2-liter bottle full of water because that's what I'm drinking at home.
Mm-hmm.
I slept on the floor. I didn't have any furniture. Every time I bought something, like for example, I bought a small little 27-inch TV, I saved the box, I put a towel on it, and that was my table. And that's how I lived, because what I did was I bought a house early. I ground it out, saved about $12,000, bought a house really early on, and I was scared that I couldn't make the payments. And the world had just finally broken down to single digits. It was like 9.5% interest rate with perfect credit. My payments, everything included, was $850 a month. I never forgot it, but that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because I'm making $8 an hour. So
Yeah.
that's what I had to do. Successively, as I went further, I grew and bought bigger homes. Obviously, I made a little bit more money as well. So that kind of leads to my other thought on this. To get startup capital, the easiest way is to leverage yourself, your time, and your skills by working and making that money and saving it. But you can't save it if you've got too many bills. Cut your costs, cut your outflows. If you're watching this video and you say, well, I want to start now, but I've got a bunch of debt. Well, that's the first thing you got to overcome. Pay off those debts. Cut back on some things. And this goes back to the old adage of what you and I are brought up with, right? Delayed gratification. You don't have to be gratified right away. And I get it. Some of the new generation, some of the millennials feel that, you know what? You don't want to delay it too long. You don't live forever. You can't take money with you when you die. All these other sayings. You got to live life for the now. YOLO, you only live once, right? All these sayings. But these sayings, you got to be real careful when you try to keep up with that part of society. You're going to look back when you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and you've got nothing to show for it but a bunch of experiences, and you're broken in debt.
Yeah. I remember that when Rick Perillo was on our podcast, he talked about how, just like you said, he and his wife were in debt. So the first thing he said is, we got out of debt. And I can't remember, but I remember, I want to say it was about $25,000 in debt. But it was, for him, it was significant. And really, that is significant, And so the first thing he did was got out of debt. He had a job, and the next thing that he did, remember, was the same thing you said, cut back on your expenses, to the point where he said that he and his wife went to go live with his mother-in-law.
Oh yeah, I was impressed, because that's someone with dedication. That's the other part of it, right? You have to dedicate yourself to this goal.
He was focused. It was
serious.
And the thing is that both him and his wife were focused. So they were a team. They supported each other. They knew they had that goal to build that capital, that starting capital that was needed. So they did that. And then, of course, and of course, the story moved on. So I want to just kind of go back a little bit over some of the things that you said. Once you get out of debt, once you have a job, one of the things that I think where I screwed up in my life, because mine wasn't, my story is a little different than yours, but the bottom line is that I had to save money. I had to put money together. But I would tell any young person right now that if they work for an organization, and especially if it's a large organization, to promote as quickly as possible. And that might mean that you got to get some good training, you got to get some education, you got to get some certifications, whatever it is that you need to do, start promoting, because the only, unless you promote, your pay raises of 2, 3, 4% per year, they're not going to cut it. You know,
No, I like what you said. So you mentioned something that, I look back and I see now some of the things that I missed then, and that is training to get yourself promoted. So that what essentially means is invest in yourself, right?
Yes.
If you had an extra $1,000, $2,000, or $500, whatever it is, and your friends or your coworkers or the guy in HR says, "Oh man, put it in your 401k, put it in the stock market, and you're going to make some money at the end of the road." You know what? If you're just starting out, I'd say don't do it. Take that money and invest in yourself by training, getting the extra certifications, getting those things that gives you the edge for promotions, because that promotion will earn you way more money compounded than what you would have invested in the market. Let's just say it was 10,000 you were going to invest, and you're early in this game and you're 20 years old. I would say my suggestion or advice to the masses, if you're in that age group, take that 10,000, go get yourself a course, go get yourself a certification, something that you're interested in, that you can focus on, and you think that you are already in the groove to do and can elevate you to that next level, because that promotion will open more doors, but get you way more money back or way more returns on that money than any stock market or investment out there, because that certification is forever. And then you can take that and you can leverage it, because you can go to your boss and say, "Hey, here's what I can do. Here's what I'm certified for. I'd like to get that other position. Oh, by the way, I'd love to grow with this company. And, hopefully you guys can meet my needs. Here's what I'm asking for. And if that doesn't work, go to another company. Here's my experience. Here's my certification." That's how I would do it.
Absolutely. I remember I worked for 7 years for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. I was in charge of their security team, which is a large team, about 260 people, 260 officers there, security officers. And I remember having a discussion with a lot of the supervisors there, and they were unhappy because promotions were hard to come by. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you want to promote, but maybe the situation is such that there's a ceiling there for whatever reason, right? And I remember telling them, which is something that I've done too, that sometimes in order to move up, you have to move out. So you have to go from one organization to another, and maybe you either promote up in that new organization, or you're going out and then maybe it has a better career path. But the bottom line is you have to keep in mind that what you want to do is keep increasing your own value. As you increase your value, people will pay you more. As you get more money, you start saving more. As you save that money, you're actually building your capital, your investment capital to get ready. So that's one way. Another way, and this is something that I know that you can talk to definitely, is, and you mentioned the side hustles, really. But really, I would say, I wouldn't even like to call them side hustles. I want to say, start a business. Figure out a product or a service that you can build a business around. And, and by being, and I don't mean necessarily being the person that's doing that job. So as an example, give me some of those little side hustles that you've done in the past.
Oh, I've had quite a bit, but
just give me one. Give me one.
I was a motorcycle mechanic and boat mechanic, and I still do that here and there on the side now.
Okay.
And I also used to sell coffee, believe it or not.
Oh, nice.
I used to do a coffee business early on as a side hustle.
But let's go back to just that motorcycle business. You can start that off as a side hustle, fixing motorcycles, if you have that skill set. But you know what? The way you start a business is by obviously marketing, getting more clients, and then hiring 1, 2, 3, 10, 100 mechanics that are working under you. And you can make some really good money there. And what you want to do is use that money, and you might keep that business. You may never, you might say, "Man, I'm making so much money here. This is great." But what you want to do is take that excess money that you're making and invest that in real estate, because the ultimate goal is to have your passive income be greater than your active income.
Oh yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head, man. So that quick blurb you just talked about had some really cool golden nuggets. And for those who didn't catch it, you're talking about leveraging. You're leveraging time, you're leveraging labor, you're leveraging skill, and you're leveraging money. You can only do so much by yourself. So when you grow a business, you're actually just taking on another job. But to grow a business right is to employ people. So now you're leveraging their time, and you're leveraging their labor, not your labor, right? to grow your business in order, and you're leveraging their skills. So
Exactly.
that is what it's all about. Leverage is really the name of the game when it comes to any type of business or passive income generating business. Once you get that capital from leveraging those things, then now you're taking into the rental game, and you're now leveraging people at a greater level, and they don't even know they're basically your employees. They're spending
Right.
their time, their labor, their skills at their job to pay you for the product you're giving them, which is the rental location.
Yeah. So in essence, they're even paying for your inventory when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
They're paying you for the inventory being obviously the property, the real estate property, whether it's a duplex, triplex, fourplex, 100 unit apartment, whatever it is, right? And you leverage money by the money's back, investors' banks, and of course your renters are really the key to that whole thing, your tenants, because they're generating that money that makes that whole thing, that greases that whole thing, that keeps it working. So,
But the whole thing comes back to, you got to have that plan. You
yes.
got to be committed. You make those sacrifices for some delayed gratification. That's the only way to get started. So you can, subscribe to the YOLO, you only live once concept, but you know what? You're only young once to get that capital once, because these opportunities only come once or twice in your life. And every time you miss it, someone else grabbed it, it becomes more competitive. You got to build even a greater capital.
Right. So I want to talk now, I want to touch on the people that actually have some capital. Okay, because you said something very interesting. Yeah, certain opportunities only come around once, maybe twice in a lifetime. So as you know, right now there's a lot of talk about people going into recession, or the economy going into recession, right? And there are people out there that actually do have some capital investment, some startup capital. Maybe they've got, I don't know, 100,000, couple hundred, maybe $400,000 or $500,000 that they've come across. I know a lot of friends of ours in the law enforcement world where they retire, and there's these programs that pay them out a lot of money as they exit that career. And yeah, it's kind of cool to have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, but if that money isn't working for you, you're losing value, right? So right now, I'm saying in the next 6 to 12 months, property values are going to come down. And if you've got that cash, you really need to think real seriously about taking advantage of that cash, taking advantage about one of these once in a lifetime opportunities that property values are going to be coming down, where you might be able to buy, where normally you might have been able to buy maybe 1 or 2 properties. Now you might be able to buy 3 to 6 properties with that same amount of money. Thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree 100%. So if this is a path of passive income that you want to acquire, and you have the capital already with you, then I would say between now and that opportunity, you better start spending every available moment and educate yourself. Educate yourself on how to make that capital work for you. Because when that time comes, if you're not educated enough, or you're not associated with the right people with the right mindset, that opportunity is going to pass you by because you didn't recognize it.
Exactly.
So make sure you educate yourself on the power of real estate, the power of leveraging, and how that can help, build that generational wealth. And we're talking to the folks who want to do this. Obviously, not everybody wants to do it, but then again, not everybody creates generational wealth.
So true. And that want to do it is critical, because whether you're just starting off and you just got hired on your first job, or as we just said, maybe you're toward the latter part of your career and you have accumulated money, there's still things that you've got to do. You got to be willing to, pay off your debt, build the capital, sacrifice that delayed gratification that you talked about, and then be willing to take those steps once you have that money. Nothing worse than seeing people that do have a nice chunk of change that they put together and then unable to deploy it, unable to allocate it. And when I say unable, I mean internally they're just unable to pull the trigger on that. And we know people like that have it and just they're missing out that ability to create that generational wealth.
Oh yeah, and that's where a lot of times it's mindset, it's education, and it's surrounding yourself with the folks who you aspire to be. And that's what it takes, I think, to get you that extra final push to make that leap or make that move. For me, the other side of it too, I want to mention is, when you do get that first, second, or third asset that's creating you wealth or generating you that passive income, don't quit your job right away. That's one, because you got to make sure you're solid in your foundation. And finally, for me, and I've mentioned to you before, I don't spend a single penny of anything generated from my passive income in my investments. I reinvest every single penny of it back into more assets. And my goal is to keep on doing that to the point where I just can't invest it anymore. And then at that time, I will go ahead and start to, spend on myself. And so, but, this is a personal philosophy, but I do believe that that's the best way to grow and scale. Because if you keep on trying to go with that whole notion, you got to reward yourself now and then, and this asset you picked up is making such good money, you want to pick this up, pick that up. Well, sometimes that next level was missing just that little bit that you just spent.
Yeah.
So every little bit I compound back into the investment.
Absolutely. Well, hey, great discussion. As we close up, what I'd like to do is, I think that we mentioned, and I know I didn't mention this to you, but I was just thinking about catching up our audience on that last property that we went to go look. For those of you that don't know, and we had mentioned this before on our last podcast, that Sam and I had put a bid in, an offer on a property in Kansas City, Missouri. So we flew out there, both Sam and I did, to go look at that property, because if it's just a single family home or even a small property and you're just doing it on your own, yeah, you kind of want to look at it, but it's not a big deal, at least in my opinion, if you've got pictures and videos. But as you move on to bigger properties, you kind of have to go look at it, because you don't know what's there. And it was a very interesting trip for Sam and myself. So I just want to let people know that, number one, we decided not to go with the property, right?
Yeah, correct. We decided not to go, but you know what? That journey was well worth it.
Yes. And so tell me from your point of view why it was well worth it, and I'll let you know from my point of view.
So from my point of view, like anything else, you want to see, touch, and feel what you're investing in. You should anyways. I strongly advise it, because oftentimes in this day and age, photos don't do things justice. They can be manipulated and you have no idea, right? So once you see it, and then you have the experience of it. But secondly, being there got you to connect with the community and the community of agents that work in that area. In this particular case, we connected with the agent on the buy side. We connected with the team on the inspection side, and they gave us a lot of insight, because they're the boots on the ground in that area every day. We are an out-of-state investor, and who better knows that market than the people who live there? Right. And finally, because we had some time left over, we got to travel and kind of look around the area. And I had kept an eye on a few properties in the area. And you know what? There were plenty of gems left over in the area. And at the end of the day, we're now making another offer in that area on an even better property.
Absolutely. And that was part of what I really got out of it. The fact that we got to see Kansas City, Missouri. It's an area that I have actually some property in Independence, Missouri, which is about 20-30 minutes away from Kansas City. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. But the opportunity is created by the relationships that you form with the people, like you said, that have the boots on the ground. And we got to meet, well, not that we met the real estate agent there, because we've known the real estate agent there for a while, but we got to know her better. And it's a question of building that relationship and that trust, so that when we tell her this is what we're looking for, we know that she understands. And she's, she hustles and bustles, and she's going to make this happen. So yeah, it was.
You know what I like about her? I like her energy. I like her moxie, but she's got the one quality that many agents that people use don't, and that is she is an investor herself. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. In fact, when she was driving us around, she took us to several properties that she had purchased and still owned, fixed up, or had purchased and sold, fixed up and sold. So she's an investor herself. So that was actually a really good experience for us, certainly for me. And you know what? In Kansas City, I don't know what you thought about the actual city itself, at least those parts that we saw. I was pleasantly surprised at how clean the area looked. And it wasn't like we were just hanging out in the A+ areas, right? I mean, we were like in the
Yeah, no,
sea.
I liked it. I think that Kansas City is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
It is an established place, and it's got a lot of history, rich history in the place. And I think this is one of those places where, for us anyways, it opened my eyes to a new hidden gem that I can tap into.
Absolutely. And that's not the only one we're going to be going to. I know that Sam and I will eventually be exploring other cities, other states, and looking for those gems, because that's how you build your portfolio. Anyways, Sam, thank you so much. Any final words for our audience?
No, that's it. As always, I hope people enjoy our content. You know, we love bringing it. We love to educate people, and we hope that it helps free people out of their binds and bounds of whatever it is that they're frustrated with in their current lifestyle, and give them an opportunity to try something new and maybe get some freedom out of it.
Absolutely. And again, we talked about building that capital, get it going. We talked about the different ways to do it. And you just have to have the right mindset. You have to want to do this. Sam and I want to do this. That's why we do these podcasts. That's why we do the newsletter. And if you want to get on our newsletter,
Yeah, shoot us an email. Send us an email, realestatehedgehog@gmail.com. Let us know you want to be put onto the list, and we'll gladly send you on that list. We do have a website, hedgehogcapitalinvestments.com. Check it out.
Excellent. Sam, take care. We'll see you on the next one. Everybody, have a wonderful evening.
Have a good night, everybody.